The following clip is exclusive content from the University. Access over 300 videos and 26 courses with advanced metaphysics on demand. Jump in live chats with Sevan and the rest of the tribe. New materials are available monthly, along with guides and regiments. Subscribe today and save $25 off your first month membership. Links are in the descriptions. Subscribe to Secret Energy TV or this channel for future show notifications.
The question is, if there is, and I know for sure there is other life forms, and they are also on something different, what would they be on? Would their passions and would their traits stem them into some of the basics and core functions that we have, or some of the desires and ideas that we have, except for at a different magnitude? Could it be also because while the body is most excellent, it produces limitations to the spirit or the soul? Could it be in itself some type of regulator and something that is not held by a body? Would it be absolved from those regulations? So these are the questions that we're going to begin to answer in this deep dive of going into looking at one card in a deck. And in this deck, we're speaking of like not only modern playing cards, but we're speaking of tarot. But more importantly, we're actually talking about the game.
Buckle up, folks, because today we're going deep down the rabbit hole into some mind-bending territory.
Sounds intriguing. What are we diving into today?
The Matrix. But not like the movie, although, well, maybe kind of like the movie. We're exploring the Matrix as a concept, a game, and a reality, all through the unique lens of this YouTube personality, Bomar.
Bomar, I've heard that name floating around.
He's got some pretty out there theories, but honestly, that's what makes it so fascinating.
So where do we even start with this? Does Bomar define what he means by the Matrix?
Kinda. He uses the Matrix as this overarching framework. A system where most people are unaware of the rules, unaware they're even playing a game.
A game!
Yeah. He sees the Matrix as a strategic game, with players vying for power, all operating under a set of established rules.
Okay, I'm starting to get a Neo vibe here. So are we all just pawns in this grand cosmic chess match?
Not necessarily. Bomar suggests there are those, quote, advanced intelligences who are actively creating the future.
While the rest of us are stuck just trying to predict it, with things like, what was it, tarot cards?
Exactly. He contrasts these two groups. It's like some players have the cheat codes while the rest of us are fumbling in the dark.
So who are these players? What are they playing for?
Well, this is where things get really interesting. Bomar dives into the power of names and words, emphasizing the energetic significance they hold within this Matrix game.
Names and words, what do you mean?
He suggests that names hold a specific vibration. They're not just labels. And each individual, he argues, actually has two names.
Two names. Okay, now I'm really curious.
He calls these two aspects the microcosm and the macrocosm. Our microcosmic name represents our physical identity, the self we present to the world. Our macrocosmic name reflects our true cosmic self, our connection to something bigger.
So like our earthly name versus our soul name.
You could say that.
Yeah.
He uses symbols to represent this concept too. The pentagram, often associated with the human form, symbolizes the microcosm. The circle, encompassing everything, represents the macrocosm.
I'm seeing a visual here. The pentagram nestled inside the circle, the individual within the universal.
Precisely. But where does this all fit into the idea of the Matrix as a game? And more importantly, how do we, as players, navigate this complex system of names, words, and cosmic energies?
Hold on. Before we jump too far ahead, there's another element Bomar brings in. The jackal. This is where things take a bit of a turn.
The jackal. Okay, I'm officially intrigued.
He ties the jackal to figures like Hermes and Thoth, these mythological trickster figures.
The trickster archetype.
Yeah.
You know, manipulating information, bending the rules.
And Bomar believes the jackal represents just that. A trickster archetype, actively manipulating events within the Matrix, pulling strings, so to speak.
Wow. So this jackal is a player in the game.
It seems so. Bomar even links it to the jack in playing cards. It's fascinating when he points out how the jack has seemingly usurped the role of the king in the modern deck.
Wait, so is he saying that trickery and deception have somehow become more potent than traditional forms of power? It's like the court jester is now ruling the kingdom.
Well, it's a thought-provoking idea, but to really understand how this trickery operates, Bomar takes us back in time to the ancient game of knucklebones.
Games. What do games have to do with any of this?
Bomar argues that these seemingly simple games actually reflect the underlying dynamics of the Matrix. Knucklebones, with its elements of chance and trickery, became a microcosm of the larger game we're all playing.
I'm trying to picture cavemen tossing those little bones, and suddenly it's like, whoa, existential crisis. Are we seeing some foreshadowing here?
Exactly. He suggests that those games weren't just for fun. They mirrored the manipulation and deception that exist at the core of this reality.
So these simple games were actually giving us clues about how the Matrix operates. Wild.
And it gets even wilder. Bomar believes that as those names evolved, so did the tools for controlling reality. He connects the talus bone, or knuckle bone, to the word talerman, hinting that even our physical bodies can be viewed as tools within this grand game.
So even our bodies are part of the game. And what about those tools for controlling reality? What were those?
Well, he suggests that from those early games, we eventually developed more complex systems of reality control, like tarot cards.
Tarot cards. Are you saying that something like tarot, which many people use for self-discovery and guidance, could actually be a tool for manipulation within this matrix?
It's a possibility Bomar presents. Like, we're given these tools to navigate this reality, but are they truly guiding us, or are they keeping us playing within a predefined system? And to really emphasize this point, he brings in the figure of Cersei.
So Cersei, from Game of Thrones.
Well, actually, the Game of Thrones character is based on the mythological figure. Cersei was known for her manipulative tactics, particularly her penchant for turning men into animals if they displeased her.
Talk about ultimate control, but how does this tie into the Matrix as a game?
Bomar links Cersei to the idea of becoming trapped in our lower nature, our animalistic desires within the Matrix. He suggests that this focus on the physical, on the microcosmic self, keeps us from accessing our true potential.
So in a sense, Cersei represents the seductive yet dangerous allure of the material world, a trap that keeps us playing a limited game.
Precisely. And to understand how this entrapment plays out, Bomar takes us on a journey through mythology, philosophy, and even the evolution of games. It's a wild ride, for sure. So we've got this whole Matrix as a game concept laid out, right? But how does this actually play out in our lives? I mean, what does it really mean to become aware of this game and its rules?
It's a lot to take in, honestly. Like, okay, there's this cosmic game going on, but what am I supposed to do about it?
Well, one way to navigate this reality, Bomar suggests, is through a deeper understanding of ourselves, particularly through the microcosm and the macrocosm, those two aspects of the self we were talking about.
Right, the microcosm being like our individual self, the macrocosm, that's our connection to the bigger universe.
Exactly. And Bomar believes a lot of people are stuck in their microcosmic identity, hyper-focused on their physical selves and their immediate circumstances. He calls this being trapped in the star vehicle.
The star vehicle.
Yep. It's like we're all driving around in these fancy cars, but we forget to look up at the stars.
Oh, I get it. So focused on the day-to-day that we lose sight of the bigger picture, that connection to something larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And Bomar argues that recognizing our macrocosmic self, our true cosmic identity, is key to transcending the limitations of that star vehicle.
I like that. But how do we access that part of ourselves? Where do we even begin?
That's where the power of names comes in. Bomar suggests that our true name, the one that reflects our cosmic identity, holds the key to unlocking that higher potential.
Okay, so it's not just about knowing our names, but understanding the energy and potential they represent. Like, are our names like secret codes or something?
That's a really interesting way to put it. It connects back to what he says about language. How he emphasizes there is no narrative without words. The language we use, both internally and externally, shapes our reality.
Whoa. Makes you think about the words you choose, right? Like, if we're constantly putting ourselves down, are we actually creating a negative reality?
It's a possibility worth considering. If we tie it back to Bomar's theory of the Matrix as a game, it's like we're given this vocabulary to navigate reality, but are we using it consciously? Are we writing our own narratives, or are we just repeating scripts that have been handed down to us?
That is a really good question. Choosing our words, or our words choosing us. But what about all the trickery and manipulation? How do we avoid falling into those traps if we're just starting to understand the rules of the game?
That's where recognizing that jackal energy is crucial. You remember Bomar sees the jackal as that trickster archetype, representing those deceptive aspects of the Matrix, the forces trying to keep us playing by their rules. He connects it to figures like Hermes and Thoth.
Right, and the jacks in playing cards. Almost like trickery's become the dominant force.
It's a fascinating idea, and Bomar doesn't just leave it there. He connects these trickster archetypes to the physical body itself, using the talus bone or knuckle bone as an example.
Knuckle bones.
Yeah.
It's the little bones you find in animal feet. What do those have to do with anything?
Yeah, those. He points out they were used in early games of chance, and he connects the word talus to talisman, suggesting that even our physical bodies can be seen as tools, talismans in this cosmic game.
So our bodies are part of the game too. It's like we're literally made up of the tools we need to play.
Precisely. And Bomar argues those early games of chance, they were precursors to more complex systems of reality control, like tarot cards.
Tarot cards again.
Right, they offer a glimpse into the future, but they're still operating within this predetermined framework.
So we're given tools to navigate the Matrix, but the game itself is rigged, influenced by forces we don't even fully grasp.
That's a crucial point. And Bomar uses the figure of Circe again to illustrate this idea.
Oh, right. The queen who could turn men into animals.
Right. So even during the Renaissance, there was this whole debate about whether becoming an animal was a good thing. Some thought it was a loss of human dignity, a descent into baser instincts. Others saw it as a pathway to spiritual liberation.
Interesting. So is being human the ultimate goal? Or is there something more?
It's a question philosophers have been grappling with forever. Bomar suggests that becoming trapped in our lower nature, like those transformed by Circe, is a form of entrapment within the Matrix.
It's like we become so fixated on our physical desires that we lose sight of those bigger possibilities.
Exactly. And Bomar believes this keeps us from accessing our true potential, our macrocosmic selves.
So it's not just about avoiding negative thoughts or making good choices, but about recognizing and transcending these deeper patterns, these archetypes that keep us playing small.
Right. And it's not easy. Remember, Bomar thinks the game is rigged. There are forces working to keep us in the dark, but he also says there are ways to push back.
Okay, how? How do we level up in this game?
Well, think about the myth we talked about, where Hermes gambles with the moon and wins some of its light. It's about outsmarting a more powerful opponent, using strategy.
So it's not about brute force or escaping the game, but learning to play it skillfully, using the rules to our advantage.
Exactly. And Bomar stresses this takes a deep understanding of ourselves, both microcosmic and macrocosmic. Knowing our strengths and weaknesses, our desires, learning to work with them, not against them.
So we need to become master strategists of our own lives.
Exactly. And to do that, we have to start paying attention. Noticing the subtle manipulations happening all around us.
Like those extra 5 days added to the Egyptian calendar.
Exactly. Bomar sees that as a classic example of how the game's rigged, how the rules have been tweaked to make it harder to break free from those patterns. But when we're aware of the manipulations, we can start reclaiming our power, creating our own destinies.
So it's like we're finally waking up to the fact that we've been playing a rigged game all along.
Yes. But now that we're waking up, we have a choice. Keep playing by someone else's rules or start creating our own?
That is a really powerful question, and one I think we all need to consider. So, if we are indeed players in this cosmic game, are you content to follow the script?
Right.
Or are you ready to become the author of your own destiny?
Bomar's theories may sound a bit out there, but what if there's some truth to them? What if we've underestimated our own power all along? Maybe the first step is just becoming aware that there's a game being played. Start noticing the patterns, the little synchronicities, the manipulations, and ask yourself, what choices can I make today to create a different outcome?
That's a great question. Bomar's ideas definitely make you think. And whether you believe the whole Matrix as a game concept or not, his insights challenge us to become more conscious creators of our own reality.
Right. It's about realizing the power we have to choose our words, our thoughts, and our actions, and understanding that those choices ripple outward. We might not even see how far they reach.
To wrap things up, maybe the real game isn't about winning or losing, but realizing we're playing it all.
Oh.
And once we do that, we can start to rewrite the rules, create a game aligned with our true potential. Thanks for joining us. And keep questioning, keep exploring, keep playing. Who knows what incredible things we can create together once we grasp the power of the game. So we've spent a lot of time unpacking Bomar's take on the Matrix. Tricksters, hidden rules, manipulation. It's a lot. But what do we do with all of this? How do we create our own game in the system that feels so rigged?
Right. It goes beyond just like escaping the matrix. It's deeper than that. Bomar seems to be pointing towards something more like true liberation, you know? When we understand the game so well, we can play strategically, masterfully even, like those advanced intelligences he talked about, who are creating the future, not just predicting it.
So not rejecting the game, but learning to play it on our own terms. But how do we do that when it feels like the deck is stacked against us?
It's true. There are forces at work that we might not have control over. But Bomar gives us some hints. Remember that myth about Hermes? The one where he wins some of the moon's light by gambling? It's a story about using your wit, your strategy, to outsmart a seemingly more powerful opponent.
Right, like a cosmic chess match. You got to think ahead, anticipate the moves, and find creative ways to turn things to your advantage.
Exactly. And Bomar really emphasizes this point. It requires a deep understanding of ourselves, our microcosm, our macrocosm, knowing what we're good at, what our weaknesses are, and what we desire. Learning to work with it all, not against it.
Self-awareness is a superpower. The more we know ourselves, the better we can navigate those tricky situations.
Absolutely. But it's more than just self-reflection. It's about realizing the power we have to shape our own reality. Like what Bomar said about names. It's not just about discovering who we are, it's recognizing the creative potential within us. If names have energy and words shape reality, maybe we can rewrite our own narratives within this game.
So stepping into that advanced intelligence role, the one who's consciously creating, not just reacting.
Exactly. And it starts with being mindful. The words we use, the thoughts we think, the beliefs we hold. Are we stuck in stories of limitation? Or are we focused on abundance and possibility?
It's a big shift in perspective. But what about all those outside forces? The manipulators pulling the strings?
Bomar doesn't really give us a straightforward answer for that, but he does encourage us to be skeptical. He says, the real adventure is happening all around us if we just open our eyes. It's a call to question everything, to look beyond the surface. Consider those hidden forces that shape our perceptions.
Becoming more aware of the game itself. The patterns, the synchronicities, the manipulations.
Exactly. Recognize the trickery, but don't get lost in fear or paranoia. It's about finding that balance between awareness and empowerment.
So if we are players in this cosmic game, what does that mean for you listening right now? Are you happy to follow the script? Or are you ready to become the author of your own story? What choices can you make today to create a different outcome in your own life? Maybe Bomar's theories sound like science fiction, but what if they hold a grain of truth? What if we've had more power than we realized this whole time? Maybe the first step is just waking up to the fact that there's a game being played.
And once we do that, we can start to rewrite the rules, create a game that reflects our true potential.
That's a great place to end this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. Keep questioning, keep exploring, keep playing. Who knows what incredible things we can create together when we understand the power of the game.